wanna do now is making it last. Mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, friends forever, strengthening the ties that keep us together. Mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, friends forever, strengthening the ties that keep us together.
I'm Noreen Daly, and of course, this is Making It Last, where it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, but with other people. The topic this time around is how can we practicalize love? Yes, I know. You've never heard that word before? Yes, it's a new word. Yet to hit the dictionaries, but in time. How can we practicalize love in our relationships? And to have that conversation with me this time around is Sharmica Holness, Manchester Festival Queen for 2016-2017, founder of iSpeak, where she provides coaching sessions specifically in public speaking, team building, and also voiceover talent. Welcome, Sharmica.
Hi, Noreen. Thanks for having me.
How can we practicalize love, and what is your interpretation of that? Because this is Making It Last, and it's all about where we try to have people better their relationships.
All right. To put that term into perspective, I look at it as an action word. And I'm really amazed by the fact that you coined that term.
Okay.
You mentioned it has not yet hit the dictionary, but maybe in the making.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do we practicalize love? Practicalizing love is putting love into perspective. Now, I see love as a helping verb. And putting love into perspective actually means giving of your best, whether your relationships are friendships, intimate, or otherwise. Mm-hmm. So that's how I look at it. I contextualize practicalizing love as an action word.
Okay. Now, there's somebody saying, meaning what though? How can I then? Because for some people, it is just something that they hear. Well, that term is actually used quite loosely. So people have different interpretations of what love really is. So if I am not sure, or is there a right way of looking at love?
It's interesting that you actually touched on that, because before we can give love, it is imperative that we first love ourselves. So self-love is very important. So firstly, as individuals, we have to practice self-love. That is something that is of paramount importance in our lives before we can show or give love to another person, whether it be intimately or in a friendship or otherwise. Mm-hmm. So many a times persons use the term love loosely, but it's not something that I take for granted. If I say I love you as a friend, I love you as a partner, it has deep meaning. And of course, the meaning transcends whether it's a friendship or an intimate relationship.
Okay. How before we continue then, how then can one even practice this self-love?
If I tell you how I love myself, self-love, it's all about the individual. Okay. Because love for me might not be the same for you. Okay. So I'm just going to share my own experiences with self-love. Now, each morning I get up, I affirm myself. It's important that we do that. Okay. If you just get up and you just go through the motion and anything comes at you, you get irritated easily. Mm-hmm. But it's good for us to just cloud out the noise all around us. Just affirm yourself. Mm-hmm. I am great. I look myself in the mirror. It sounds weird, but I look myself in the mirror and say, I am great. So that is the first step towards practicing self-love. Mm-hmm. Secondly, I treat myself. People might wonder, why do you treat yourself? And I tend to do that a lot. Mm-hmm. If we're waiting on somebody to treat us, you're not treating yourself, then, you just take what you get. Mm-hmm. So there are times when I say, well, okay, it's the end of the month. They always say, my mother taught me this, when you get your pay, eat a food. Yes, I don't know where that term came from, but she just had this thing, make sure. And I see where that's going in terms of self-love. Whenever I get paid, first thing I do, I go to the spa. As a form of treating myself, I'll have a good meal. As you know, I'm a foodie.
Yes.
I like to eat. So that too is a part of self-love. So I try to fix myself up, treat myself, affirm myself, etc.
Okay. All right. So we're talking about how we can practicalize love in our relationship. You said one of the things that we must do is, of course, engage in self-love. What else do you think that
All right. After
should do?
engaging in self-love, then we can move on to loving others.
Okay.
No, it's interesting when you mentioned this topic. I went back in time to a book that I read a couple of months ago, 5 Love Languages, The Secret to Love That Lasts by Gary Chapman. And he, in that book, provided some in-depth insights as to the different categories of love. And this is how I put it into perspective now, how to practicalize. Now, the different categories that Gary touched on in that book are physical touch, words of affirmation, which I mentioned earlier, acts of service, quality time, and gifts. Now, it is important that whether you're in a friendship or an intimate relationship, that you understand how the other person wishes to receive that kind of love. Remember, when we talk about practicalizing, it's putting it into action.
That's right.
So you now need to understand how is it that that person prefers to receive love. And once you understand that, it forms a greater bond and it synchronizes that relationship. So it can be, well, physical touch for me is on the intimate side, even though it can be on the friendship side, because I love my friends. I'll hug my friends when I see them. Just know, before I left the office, it's my best friend's birthday, and, you know, we embraced each other and stuff like that, because I know she's that type of person. We understand each other. So physical touch, which is the first category, is one way of practicalizing love. Then the second category is words of affirmation. Some persons like to be given compliments. Some persons prefer you to tell them something as opposed to giving them a gift. I, for one, I like words of affirmation. So if you tell me that, okay, you look beautiful or you're looking nice today, I feel complimented. The third category is acts of service. And this is not a self-explanatory term. It's a broad one. Acts of service is giving of yourself to show that person how much you truly care. So it can be as simple as waking up in the morning, giving your partner a note in his lunch bag if your partner takes lunch to work. So when he opens his lunch bag for lunch, he'll see that little note. I mean, people might laugh at the idea that is so old school, but it goes back to what I'm saying.
Yes, it does.
If you read that book, The 5 Love Languages, and you understand your partner, it makes for a better relationship. So acts of service is another category. The fourth and most important category, quality time. Friendships, relationships with your spouse, your family, you must make quality time. I place value on my friendships and relationships. And it's really a two-way street. So if one person is giving the effort and another person is not, it's really not practicalizing love. Because I am on this side, putting in all the effort, treating you as a priority when I'm only an option. So it's important. That category stood out for me of the 5 categories mentioned in that book.
Okay.
I am a person who values quality time, and I will tell my friends, my spouse that, listen, me love attention. I am that. I will crave your attention. So even if you don't give me that word of affirmation or that physical touch, just being there, I get home, we can just chill together, watch a movie, and your presence is felt. That does something to me. Okay. And the final category is that of gifts, which is self-explanatory. Again, giving a token just to show that you appreciate this person. So when I looked at those 5 categories, Noreen, I put it into perspective that these 5 categories touch on practicalizing
Yes, it does.
love.
Based on your reading, is it that there is one dominant love language, or is it that sometimes people have have a combination, or is it that you need to just see of the 5, and how then are you able to identify that?
All right. It's important to note that in the book, The 5 Love Languages, there's actually a test for partners to take.
Okay.
So at first, you and your partner, you'll sit and go through the test. And then having completed the test, you will do the evaluation of the test scores. And then that will determine which area is more dominant. So you can have a combination of areas, but mind you, one will stand out. Because I did the test and I knew right away before doing the test that quality time was my dominant category. And of course, when I did the test results revealed that in fact, quality time was the category I regarded as being the most important. So you can have a combination, but one will stand out.
Okay. Now, Sharmica, a lot of persons might be listening to that and saying, but yes, based on what you're saying, this has to be applied to, man-woman relationships. So what then can we say to somebody listening that with that mindset to say, I'm not in a relationship, how can these love languages relate to me?
And that, Noreen, is the mentality that we need to change, because many persons regard love as intimacy. Love and intimacy are 2 separate things. A part of intimacy is love.
Okay.
But you can have love outside of intimacy. So I don't want persons to be misled into thinking that the categories that I mentioned should only be applied to intimate relationships. You can transcend that into your friendships as well, into your family life. Because of course, when you look at even quality time that I stress on so much, you need to spend quality time with your family.
Yes.
Gifts are important at Christmas time, birthdays, or any other special events, occasions. So I don't want persons to be led to think that, the 5 love languages can only be applied. And even in the book, it's specified that it's outside of intimate relationships. You can apply this to your everyday life. And that is what I want persons to really understand.
Okay. One other thing before we wrap up. And in these harsh economic times, somebody's saying, listen to this lady talking about how we must be giving gifts. What kind of gifts she talking about when we have no money, to take care of some of our basic needs?
And that too is something that that mindset is something we need to change, because gifts don't necessarily mean going to a store and spending money on a gift basket or a gift certificate from a spa or something like that.
Good.
You can give a gift that is handmade. We need to move out of this time now move out of this mindset where we feel that giving big gifts, is a symbol of showing appreciation. Something as simple as a chocolate. You can just go pick up a chocolate.
Yes.
Let that person know that, yes, I'm actually thinking of you, because you'll be surprised to see just how much you'd have done for that person. So it's really the thought that counts and not necessarily the magnitude of the gift.
Good. I'm glad you said that. And as we're wrapping up, you've mentioned out of Gary Chapman's book, the different love languages. And of course, before you can even get to loving others, you reminded us that how we need to love ourselves. But if there is just one thing that you want our listeners to get from all that we've shared in this conversation, what would that one thing be?
That one thing, quality time. I've been stressing on it since the start of our podcast, and I am going to end with it. Quality time is important. We have seen in the news recently where a lot of persons have been committing suicide. We have persons we think would never do such a thing because they have money, but money doesn't equate to happiness. So it's important that we really look out for those around us. Remind the persons that you love that you actually love them. Show them some sort of gratitude. It's even a little token, if it's even a 5 minutes on the phone, just ensure that, yes, I'm reminding you that I care and I think about you. So that one thing, quality time.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
And it was all about how can we practicalize love in our relationships. In other words, turn it into an action verb, so to speak.
Yes, an action verb.
This has been Making It Last with your host, Noreen Daly. Until next time.
You loving me, I loving you. Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life, won't live in the past. All I wanna do now is making it last.